Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into one of the most incredible stories in all of history, how a scattered group of nomads from the remote grasslands of Asia managed to build the largest single-land empire the world has ever seen. It's a wild story.
So picture this. It's the 14th century, and the famous traveler Ibn Battuta is journeying across Central Asia. He's expecting to find these legendary, wealthy cities, but instead, he finds ruins. Great centers of culture like Bukhara, once bustling and brilliant, were, as he put it, almost completely in ruins. So, what in the world could cause that level of destruction across an entire continent? To find the answer, we have to go back in time, back to the 12th century, to one of the toughest places to live on Earth, the Eurasian steppe.
Now, this story doesn't begin with a powerful empire ready to conquer the world. No, it starts with the complete opposite. Scattered, warring tribes just trying to survive in this vast, unforgiving landscape.
I mean, life here was just brutal. The winters were freezing, with winds whipping down from Siberia, and among all the tribes, the Mongols were seen as some of the poorest. A Persian historian at the time wrote about their sorry state, saying their clothes were made from the skins of dogs and mice. And get this, the biggest symbol of wealth, of power, was just owning a pair of iron stirrups. But here's the thing. Deep within their culture was this incredibly powerful idea. It's captured in the legend of their ancestor, Alan the Beautiful. The story goes that she taught her 5 sons a lesson. A single arrow, she showed them, is easy to break. But 5 arrows bundled together? Unbreakable. Unity is strength. And that lesson would change everything.
And the person who would finally bundle those arrows together was a boy named Temujin. His childhood, well, it was an absolute nightmare. His father was murdered by a rival tribe, and then his own clan just abandoned him and his family. They were left for dead, surviving on whatever they could find. Wild fruit and fish they caught using hooks they made out of sewing needles.
So, the big question is, how does this abandoned kid, from this brutal world, go on to create an army that could conquer half the known world? Well, he did it by creating a whole new way to wage war, a combination of brilliant tactics and just pure, unadulterated terror.
Okay, so one of their signature moves, and honestly one of the hardest military maneuvers to ever pull off, was the feigned retreat. This took an insane amount of discipline, because if your troops actually panic and the retreat becomes real, your army is destroyed.
So here's the playbook. First, you get this lightning-fast charge from the Mongol horsemen. Then, all of a sudden, they break and flee, looking like they're in total chaos. The enemy army, thinking, hey, we won, breaks their own formation to chase them down. But it's a trap. They run straight into the main Mongol army, which is just waiting to surround and completely annihilate them. It was a genius move that turned an enemy's confidence into their biggest weakness.
But listen, their genius wasn't just on the battlefield. Their psychological warfare was, if anything, even more devastating. They built this reputation for being absolutely ruthless. If a city resisted them, they'd often slaughter everyone inside, and then they'd deliberately let a few survivors escape to spread the terrifying news. You can bet the next city down the road often surrendered without a fight. And Temujin, who by now had taken the title Genghis Khan, framed this whole campaign of terror in divine terms. He famously told the leaders of one conquered city, "I am the punishment of God." He was basically saying, this isn't just a war, it's cosmic justice. A brilliant and frankly terrifying piece of propaganda. But this is where the story gets really complicated. This is the great paradox of the Mongols, because they weren't just destroyers. Once the fighting was over, they turned out to be amazing administrators who connected the world in ways no one had ever even dreamed of before.
Right at the heart of their empire was this incredible innovation called the yam. The best way to think about it is like the 13th century internet. It was a superhighway for information.
The yam was a whole network of relay stations, all stocked with fresh horses, food, and a place for messengers to rest. Using this system, a single rider could cover up to 300 kilometers, that's almost 190 miles, in just one day. I mean, that kind of speed was completely unheard of back then.
Think about what that speed means for a second. The great Khan could send an order from his capital and get reports back from the farthest corners of the empire, from China all the way to Hungary, in a matter of weeks, not months or years. It was a total game changer for governing a huge territory.
And all of this control led to something really unexpected, a period of incredible peace and stability across Asia that we now call the Pax Mongolia, or the Mongol Peace. For the first time, a merchant like Marco Polo could travel the entire length of the Silk Road from Europe to China and be relatively safe the whole way, all under the protection of the Khan.
So this brings us to the big question, right? What is the ultimate legacy of the Mongols? How do we make sense of an empire that was maybe history's greatest destroyer and also one of its greatest creators?
It's really two sides of the same coin. On one hand, the destruction is just mind-boggling. We're talking about cities like Baghdad, the intellectual capital of the Islamic world, completely razed. Its legendary libraries were destroyed, and all that knowledge was lost forever. Heck, those same trade routes they secured even helped the Black Death spread west. But on the other hand, that very same network created a connected world like nothing before it. The Silk Road was safe, which kicked off this massive exchange of culture, science, and goods between civilizations that had barely known each other.
And what's really fascinating is how that connection completely reshaped the world. The Mongol Peace was basically a superhighway for key Chinese technologies to travel to Europe. Things like gunpowder, the compass, paper money, new printing techniques. These weren't just new gadgets. These were the inventions that would completely change the course of European history, fueling things like the Renaissance and the Age of Exploration.
So in the end, what were they? History's greatest destroyers or its greatest connectors? And the crazy, impossible answer seems to be they were both. They were the brutal storm that leveled entire civilizations, but they also built the bridge that connected worlds, leaving a legacy that's so complex and so contradictory, we're still trying to figure it out today.